Hello, and here we are again with my good friend David Duvall, another episode of No Art, No Life. David, how are you?
Jack, I'm pretty good. I think that a few things come up during each week that rattle me.
Yes?
When or at least you think you're sensitive,
Mm-hmm.
things can really bother you, and they can be very trivial. It's amazing, but it works on you for some reason, psychologically, and then whatever there is psychologically, there's going to be something physically too. So
Sure.
when you're weak, that's when people should know when to get to you.
Mm. Well, I guess if I can take the risk of at least hinting at what we were talking about before we began this conversation,
Mm-hmm.
that you, perhaps more than many, have had a privileged, and by privileged, not necessarily putting you in an idealized position, but privileged in the sense that it's unique, position of seeing how perhaps people who are steeped in a love for art and yet perhaps don't have some degree of inner discipline as human beings, and I don't mean it makes them reckless artists, but it makes them somehow unable perhaps to bear the burden of having the attraction to the temperamental aspect of art,
Mm-hmm.
brings people into your circle that you have a tragic view of.
Yes, I know what you're saying. Could you go a little deeper into that, because it's a very good idea, and it's dangerous because it also keeps you going toward people
Mm.
and keeps you away from them. And once you start becoming away from people, I think that you start feeling that alienation, that isolation that comes with an age that we live in.
Mm-hmm.
It's a wonderful thing to have a friend that you can actually say important things to, meaning things that are not just petty via your own self, but into something that is on a larger level important to yourself. And your friend may be able to detect something that you're missing through the conversation that makes it into something far more important and agreeable, even, instead of something that
Mm-hmm.
you don't understand and that just rattles you. I don't know if I'm speaking gibberish or not, but I think that there's something behind what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. I guess what I'm hinting at is because of your notoriety in the world of the piano, and that allows you to see those who've had to endure the great temperamental stresses that comes with that, that there are those who seem to be able to exist in that and yet retain a degree of equilibrium.
Mm.
And then there are those who maybe are not as gifted, but they seem to have a bit of a human spark that can
Mhm.
make them attractive at first.
Mm-hmm.
And yet perhaps that attraction, that spark, also comes with the cost of a lack of equilibrium, a lack,
Mm-hmm.
if I may use a word that some people may think I'm choosing poorly, a lack of normalcy.
Yes, normalcy is an amazing thing.
Yes.
I'm always stunned by the little groups who want to show you that they're not normal.
Mm.
I don't think it should have to be a big deal. I think that we are all abnormal in 100,000 ways,
Mm.
but that we need to appreciate that normalcy itself is a magnificent gift, because without it, the creations that you may do, that you may actually love doing or even find important to do, and to maybe even form a legacy from, these things have to come from a sense of equilibrium, an equilibrium that is headed by the greatest artist of all, the few that have achieved such equilibrium in their art, such as Shakespeare and such as Beethoven especially. This guy is an amazing creature of paring together the pain and tragedy and greatness of life in a space of time, and in a large space of time called sonata, because that would have been unheard of for any human being to be able to put together something so normal. Normalcy is quite wonderful. Abnormalcy is something that is, in my opinion, Jack, I mean, you know, I'm roaming around always. Don't even know if I agree with myself the next
That's
day.
okay. That's what we're doing. Isn't it Whitman who said that? So I contradict myself. I contain multitudes.
That's for sure. I think it was what the great poet Whitman. I see normalcy as something tremendous. It has to be, or there could never have been Beethoven, you see. This man had to have an equilibrium, as a Chopin did. Chopin knew he cannot sit and read George Sand's endless novels. That's a waste of his time. He's only going to live 39 years. He can't read her books. It may have hurt her, and did. However, he had something far more important to do with his time. In a certain way, there are certain illnesses from early childhood on that make certain you are going to be very careful of your time. And in the case of Chopin, although we've not talked about him extensively, he's a great part of our lives, a great part of mine. I love him dearly. We have to trace back to the fact that he dies of consumption, and he's only 39 years old, and he's not a lover of anyone's paintings or books. He doesn't, you know, pretend to adore Goethe or other composers even. I don't have time for that, he says. But what he does have time is for the maturing in each of the genres he composes in. And at the end of his life, he will say in a letter to a friend, "Where has my art gone?" And his art was consumed by the tuberculosis, which he had been terrified of from the death of, I think, Emily, early on, a poetic young girl, 14 years old. Now, this lived with Chopin, the idea that disease could kill him. And indeed, disease did kill him. He was running away even from his homeland to make certain that he would find an equilibrium. And for maybe 8 years of his mature composing life, he did in George Sand, who made certain that all things would work for his composing. I think she understood too that he would die at 39. She would live on till 76 and continue this voluminous correspondence from Flaubert to you name the person. And she was an endless inspiration to many people. But to Chopin, she was the lifeline, I believe. And she doesn't get in the biographies of Chopin any of the credit she should for those masterpieces that came out of the estate of Nantes, where she owned and lived, and brought him to live there, to have the equilibrium. It's a big word. It's the normalcy of a creative atmosphere that would be able to bring him to the ends finally of each of the 7 or 8 genres that he perfected to the end. So when he said, "Where's my art gone?" it was over with. His art was over with, and the tuberculosis would destroy him, of course. It did many, but those were not important destructions in the world of mankind. They are just the normalcy of dying from an unknown disease. But Chopin, no, he was far more. He epitomized all of the difficulties of being not only a pianist, of which he rejects, by the way, it's important. He even rejects playing the piano in public to make a living, and he would rather think of it, teach hour after hour after hour for a high sum to make certain that he would be able to live on the very gracious way he wanted to.
Do we think he could have been trying to escape something else, however, by doing that, in terms of perhaps escaping the mechanical repetition that we might also speculate leads to, if we keep using the word normalcy, the lack of normalcy that we can feel creeps in to the pianistic mindset? That it seems a theme that crops up for a lot of people. You mentioned Chopin, of course, Liszt leaving the platform, and I don't know that a lot of the composers, maybe save for Rachmaninoff, really ever retained the life of a virtuoso that had to really maintain the mechanism without losing their normalcy.
Without packing it up and leaving, because they would have entered into like what de Pachmann did. He had no composing, no writing, no anything else. De Pachmann entered insanity.
Yes.
And his insanity was covered by the stage itself, which is so easy to cover insanity.
You mean the stunts he would pull on stage?
The stunts that he would pull on stage, as Rachmaninoff said, "I am not amused."
What were some of those stunts? I've read some of the lore. What are the ones that come to mind?
Oh, you know, they are, basically talking about himself and the composer, and little things about the piano benches is too high or too low, can't they fix it? Finally, they would bring out a telephone book, and he'd tear off one page, and he'd sit down and he played it again. And one page, of course, of the telephone book is not going to help any pianist.
Yes.
I wish it could.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, a stage is a place where a person who is possibly on the verge of insanity, a place that they will find some comfort if they find equilibrium again, or if they find the stuff of what you do on the stage, which is always promoting yourself as the object to look at.
Mm-hmm.
One has to be skeptical about all performers. It's not a very good way of making a living. It can be very lucrative for the Michael Jacksons of the world, or the pop stars, but if you notice, not one of them ever lived a life of normalcy that would end in a equilibrium. They were all mad in one way or another. They didn't. They were able to, through their talent and through publicity, to say, "Hey, I'm right here always, and you're not going to forget me." But these, especially pop stars, are most often, terrible addicts, not only of the stage. I mean, how come they continue doing these same acts until they're 80 years old? Is an extraordinary thing. Why don't you sit down and read some Shakespeare already, or understand that you're not an artist in all of those recordings that made you gold?
Well, we were talking about a tremendous conundrum not too long before we began this conversation, where people who ostensibly, meaning people in other professions, who do seem to have chosen a life of equilibrium, where there are other professions, doctor, lawyer, Indian chief, the things that we think of as divorced from the arts. And yet, for some reason, that's where I will hear citations of what I would call artistic madness, meaning that the things that they will use as sources of their own footnoting of what they think are of value are from the lowest common denominator. And if I may risk, I'll often meet people that I hold in high esteem who will then cite lines from a Bob Dylan song, who I know don't have the slightest notion that it doesn't in any way compare to verse of any quality from the canon of English literature, nor is he an instrumentalist of any power, nor is he a vocalist or a performer of any power. And yet I do not know why people of equilibrium will cite people who, in a sense, have only achieved what I would call artistic madness, in the sense that it's something of little to no value. Whereas we then can look at someone like a Beethoven and a Chopin, Liszt, the people of the canon, who the common man walking around may have this imagined notion that they led this bohemian mad life, but they were actually protecting, for the sake of real canonical value, a life of equilibrium, which usually meant protecting their time. So that puzzles me, because these people that are often cited now and who have no right to be canonized, and yet one is thought of as a snob, especially in the last couple decades. No one fights for what used to be called the protection of Parnassus. Now one is always intimated that they don't have, in fact, that I think is what you would talk about as the over-democratization of civilization.
Yes, yes.
So how do we distinguish these problems where madness now can also be invading the level of the normalcy, because people are citing the worst common denominator, yet living stable lives, and yet we also then encounter the other type that I wanted to begin the conversation with, people who are tragically aware of things of value, and yet they can't take those on, and that somehow also taints their normalcy. People that we can feel sympathetic to, and we can be attracted to them because they seem to have a little bit of the notion of what is genuinely of value, but it seems to lead to their crack up. And I don't know that I've learned from anyone more than you of people that you've had to deal with because of this tragic problem. What do you make of that?
It's a mouthful indeed, Jack, and it's so fascinating, so important. Yes, I would say that I had my share because in the world of the arts, the piano wannabe looms very large. You would be surprised at how many wannabe pianists make up the small audience that now exists for great music. They're obsessed with playing that instrument, and they play it usually so badly that you don't want to laugh because they're doing something that is so precious to you. The idea of a Chopin nocturne in their hands, or their attempt at doing something more difficult, which is always so fascinating to each person, than they're able to do. Someone just called me and said, I have such terrible tendonitis, I've been practicing piece. Well, why would you practice that piece? That piece is going to kill your hands. You're not ready for such a piece. You don't have the experience behind you to tackle that kind of work. Your muscles are revolting. That's what tendonitis is. When your muscles revolt against the muscular pain you're giving them. When it comes to the fact, which is about 25 or 30 years in the making, the democratization of the American mind into we are all equal, we have come down to the one phrase, haven't we? We're all supposed to be equal. Well, none of us are vaguely equal. We're talking about these fantastic things called normalcy and equilibrium. Well, yes, when you are on the street corner and you are talking to someone that perhaps you care for or spent a great deal of time with, or just finally let them enter your life, and they so disappoint you, instead of quoting Shakespeare, of course they quote nothing, but if they do, it's going to be the new intellectual idol, such as, and we don't want to disparage anyone, everyone has a right to their work. It's how it's disseminated that is very, very difficult to handle, such as, someone gives you a Bob Dylan phrase or talks about his song. I mean, to me, they are really, really not very, interesting. I'm not going to go home and listen to a Bob Dylan album, let alone look at him. But this is the new pseudo-intellectual idol, and if you read the New York Times reviews on Bob Dylan ranks up there with, how did that happen? How did that happen that anyone would quote Bob Dylan, and how did it happen that he would win the Nobel Prize for Literature? I am not condemning him, as I said. I mean, it could be any name. It could be Conrad Duvernoy. has come up to me and has given me a quote from a pop song. Well, I would be devastated. What? This is a person that I was going to be letting into my life? No, I could not, because I'm not respectful enough to what he's quoting. That quotation tells you all about him.
It does. And do we think it's because with the idea of the over-democratization of the American mind,
Oh, God.
that's a wonderful way to put it, that what the person's really confessing is their unwillingness, for fear to seem like they have any degree of discretion, their unwillingness to say one thing is better than another. So that if one takes the thing that is now being bounced around as viable for a new membership in the canon, even though it hasn't earned that place, what one is saying then is they have the virtue of blindness to quality. And that's what really hits me at that moment. And why did that creep in?
Oh, such a deep question, so many answers even. It crept in because they were too lazy to read originals, novels, or listen to pieces of music that they should have been familiar with at 7 or 8 years old, or how to compose by that time. What are they doing with their time? There's no education whatsoever. We do know that. It almost seems to be agreed upon, except nobody seems to care about what the new curriculum should be. And I can give it to you very easily. And I would fight for each of these classes to be a part of education from 5 years old, or whatever they put these poor kids into school at. I don't know. I never went to school in the sense that I was never there. I was always, somewhere else in my mind. But when I was there, I mean, it was really a prison sentence, and it was a prison sentence to really be with a lot of the kids that were so stupid. They didn't want to engage in any education, and they wouldn't receive any. And so what do I have? I don't even know a language other than English very well in any way, because nobody cares about that. Oh, English is my language, and I am, there's many ways of snobbery. I mean, it would be wonderful to read. I don't read the French poets. When I do, I'm so confused. The French translation cannot be this bad, but translations can be so bad. I have had translations of my own books read to me. I have no idea what I was talking about, or so it's so complicated, this idea of education. We haven't even begun to grapple with it. All we know is that it's done. Oh, they had an act in 1840 about education for everyone, or the British did it first, or whatever. But there's absolutely no education at all any longer, and there used to be a semblance of it. I've told you, every time I look at a Latin phrase, I'm stunned at how beautiful it is and how concise. Why are we not learning Latin? The most beautiful thing in the world. I don't know about Greek. It seems, as the sculpture is, it's too almost idealistic for me. But Latin seems to have a earthiness inside. I'd love to hear it. I'd love to see what the translations are. What else? This is such a big topic. It's not that they're quoting the wrong poets, that they are the wrong poets.
Yes.
It's they don't know any differently. And so what has happened is everyone thinks that everyone is not allowed to say, Tennyson is not that good from age 40 on, or how come? And then you have real critics who have really grappled with that, write about it, and that's what you should be reading if you wonder. Anything you read, criticism has its greatest value in the sense that it is put on top the thing that should be on top. And it's certainly not some minor poet with the harmonica or something,
Right.
going around making millions of dollars an hour. Why are they heard? What is the reason that the public could tolerates the nonsense of bad art.
The only reason that I can think that it happens is that what's been established is there's a kind of lottery for admittance into the canon now. And that we will even celebrate someone that we don't have really any investment in. And I really believe this. But there are people who will go to concerts, meaning pop things, popular culture, that in their heart of hearts, I don't believe they have an investment in. But they respect the lottery because the person who has now been canonized is canonized randomly. And that means if they could be suddenly canonized randomly, even though it's 1,000,000,000 to 1, so could they, if the lightning bolt suddenly points to the stranger on the street. And I think that's what's happened, is that people want to defend the lottery, as opposed to defending the labor that it takes to climb the ladder. And the fact that also people had to do labor to defend the people who already made it to the top of the ladder with success. It's a really complex thing, as you say, because there it is, and the founders, all men are created equal, and I understand what they mean. And
Jefferson, who was not equal to anyone, he was
Right.
superior to all, would laugh at that phrase being, did he really write that? Yes, he did. So the fact is you hit it on the nose. There is a lottery of, certainly no PR person rejects anyone coming with them to give them a check and say, please, do what you can for me this month or something.
Yes.
Make sure that you see my name everywhere you can.
Which is the equivalent of just saying, buy me more lottery tickets.
Buy me more lottery
Because
tickets.
then my chances of winning go up.
And have you ever seen sometimes the lineups after it goes to 60 million or something like that? There's lines all over the place. The state is actually destroying your possibility of survival by these lotteries. They're taking your money away, knowing that you have no chance to win, just as you have no chance to be the next Elvis Presley. How many Elvis Presleys have there been? How many Bob Dylans? Why did they choose him? Did you see him at the end of his life? It was a terrible caricature.
Again, I can only imagine it's the idea of chance, that if chance allows someone who doesn't deserve to be in the canon a place in the canon, that a person watching that thinks, it may not happen to me, but it's only chance that prevented me from having that
So
place.
important. That's a great essay, Jack, for you to write. Please do it.
I think I will.
It's a great one. The element of chance. Why? I always keep saying, why? Why would anyone 30 years later still care about King Elvis Presley? Well, he had a sweet voice at times. Have you ever seen those movies? How could you get through a movie? He made 30 of them.
Yes, he did. Yes.
He didn't have a chance. He had all of his good old boys around him. He never read a book. He just had more and more drugs, got fatter, went to Las Vegas where he had a lifetime contract, so to speak, and they would come to see the king in a costume that nobody in the world would wear if they thought of normalcy or equilibrium.
Now, the other shift that I believe has happened in our 20th into 21st century, I can't speak to Elvis, and I don't know enough about him, but I suspect some of these figures, maybe an Elvis, wouldn't deny the fact that there's an element of chance in their fame. Whereas I suspect now, and you always talk about the abuse of the word artist, we see these people with these stern faces at award shows who are confident that they have earned that place.
What a thing to earn to be called an artist.
And
That's
yet,
higher than any priest could be.
right, though they would have to testify to the notion of chance allowing them to ascend, they radiate the confidence of someone who has made the labor to ascend.
Yes.
And that, I see it in people's faces.
Oh, it's so obscene, Jack.
Yes.
It's obscene. Yes, and it radiates in the faces of these low mediocrities
Yes.
who are making fortunes. And what does that translate to? That they are automatically, because they're wealthy, their talent did that for them as well. You see what an insidious snake-like thing this whole thing is. It's serpentine. Who deserves the idolization that they get? 3 out of all the thousands of entertainers that drive us crazy?
Well, and then there's the other consideration that we spoke of today. And we spoke of it a little bit in our conversation now, but let's see if I can get at it with a little bit of an angle. There are the people who are aware of quality in this life, of what the canon really means. And those are the people that sometimes can attract us as potential friends or enamoradas. And yet we realize that there's something that they've grasped onto that is bigger than their ability to carry it. And it leads to what people used to call someone who's touched or pixelated or mad. What do you make of that? Because you've told me many tales that I find fascinating, where that little bit of vision can cause someone to seem to be very attractive in the beginning, but we realize that it's actually an unstable force.
Oh my God, yes. And they are everywhere.
Yes.
They're next to you on the subway, waiting to talk to you, perhaps. And God forbid if you are a good talker in public and you like people and you say something, oh my God, you're into a conversation. Oh, that person understands that.
Yes.
I'm always stunned if anyone understands a thing, because I find they really don't. This is what is so tragic about, and this is not my snobbery or any elitism, so tragic about our time is nobody knows a thing to say about anything that you could actually cogitate on or ponder. There is literally nothing in their mind. The phrase "nothing in their mind" is so true. And yet I give them, because they know English to be able to say something that I could understand, I give them tremendous credit for something so ridiculously nothing. They're getting a high grade from me, which lets them possibly into my orbit for an hour or two, or 5 months or whatever, until I suffer enough to get them out.
That little bit of a wedge is the very thing we were talking about, and you hit it exactly.
How?
Well, in saying that sometimes in this desert that one can pass through, when we hear just a little bit of an oasis of an idea from someone, it can seem like great romantic promise, intellectual depths, but sometimes it's just enough, I'll use the word wedge again, to grab our attention and then to realize that there's no wider part past the wedge.
Yes.
That drives in past the wedge.
Yes.
And
exactly.
Those people, however, I find to be more sympathetic, and yet they're more dangerous to the private time of the person who can entertain them. And yet there's also the complementary danger of the other people we were talking about, the people who are of equilibrium, and yet cite mock values. So in the long run, I'm more sympathetic to the tragic, mad person, and yet it's sad that one has to rebuff those people.
Yeah, it's, for me, they can be very dangerous. I'm so much a missionary to the arts, in my mind at least, for the piano, for painting and drawing, all the things that I like to do myself, that I can be hooked line and sinker into their world if I feel that there's something in them, some spark of what I love.
Well,
we're very desperate to have someone love what you love.
Yes, and that's why I went home after our conversation last week. You had mentioned that you had read a letter. Is it Edith Sitwell?
Dame Edith Sitwell, the poet who had 2 brothers that were also wonderful writers, the Sitwell family.
Yes. I always have trouble saying the one brother's name. It begins with an S.
Sacheverell Sitwell and
Mhm.
I forget the other one. The second Sachi was Osbert Sitwell.
The reason I recalled the letter, and I thought about it on the train, and you, if I can paraphrase it, you mentioned it was a letter that she had received from a novelist who was asking her aide to have a publisher look at it.
Yes.
And you had talked about how the letter, to a degree, argues how she has to defend her time, and that it's really, in a sense, a great liberty that one takes. And then you know why I then suddenly seized up upon thinking about that, because that's exactly how I introduced myself to you. I wrote you a letter about a novel I had written, and yet one day, a real shining, wonderful day in my memory, my phone rang, and there you were on the line. Now, what I would like to know is, am I not guilty of that same leap? Because, in a sense, I importune myself on your time.
You know why? Yes, you are. And any fan letter is, you see, so to speak. But in the case of the Sitwell letter, she was resenting him because she had a wide reputation from music people, poetry, everything, of helping everyone she could. She was a true grande dame, not just a dame of the British Empire. And she really, for instance, how much she tried and did help Dylan Thomas and many others. And her letters are filled with this. And then all of a sudden she comes to a man who just takes it for granted because he's a novelist, that this woman is going to give her time. And she just, next time we'll read the letter, I think it'll be worth it. She gives him hell for that because she's not about to be taken for granted. So when you wrote to me those years ago, I didn't feel that you were taking me for granted. Everything about the letter was sterling, and it was well-mannered, and there was an essence of authenticity about it.
Okay.
When someone can give you and you could be very wrong about that too, you have to, as I said, you can't close yourself off to all the people in the world who may think you are worth knowing. So you have to take chances. And I've taken many chances, and that's why I've had many disappointments, but you have to know there will be more disappointments. There will be more people quoting you these ridiculous sentences from pop artists or pop psychology or junk gurus everywhere making a dollar on everywhere. Look at the people making money on their knowledge of this poor limp creature called the president. Oh my God, what is that man really about? I mean, that is a man with no equilibrium and total insanity. And he's the president of our country. He got away with it. And now, like all of these people that we were talking about, Elvis, look at their ends. They're incredibly bad. Everyone's, because you cannot keep taking for granted that you are special. Nothing special about anyone, but they are not my equals.
I see. That's a very subtle sentence.
I think it is.
Just say that one more time.
I forgot it already.
There's nothing special about anyone.
There's nothing special about me, and there's certainly nothing special about what I said in the long run.
Well, I think in a sense what we're after is just a very delicate notion of the risk one has to take.
Yes, there's the real thing. You've got to take that risk, and you have to buoy yourself up to be very disappointed. Oh my God, look at that beautiful woman in front of me, and she just came out of Carnegie Hall. Well, what did she hear there? God bless her. Was it a Beethoven 7th Symphony? Or was it some rock group? Have you ever seen these people in rock concerts, though, at its height of the Madonna era, let's say, where you would go to the Palladium and you would literally be seeing people tased and thrown from
Yeah.
chair to chair, and they were all, what were they looking for in these people? These people, when you talk to them, have nothing more to say than they do.
Yes, unfortunately, I find in the date culture of the middle-aged man for myself that even if one, however, goes to an ostensibly elevated event, that oftentimes people are still just looking merely for a cultural artifact to declare their presence. Doesn't seem as if it integrates into their metaphorical lives for references for their own actions. That I find very rare. And
It's very rare that people go deep into themselves. They're terrified. They're so lonely as it is. I mean, we're living in the lowest loneliness we've ever had. There's no horse to pet. There's no nostril to breathe in. I mean, all we are these constantly refined, more and more expensive machines, and we're owned by what, 10 people in the world that are, what's the only value if you look at it on the iPhone? What are the 10 richest men in the world, or 10 richest women? And the women, of course, they're all of a certain brand, and the men, oh my God, I mean, what could they call themselves, human? Would you not be embarrassed to tell the world that you are worth $1 billion or $400 billion? I would be very embarrassed with all through 40 or 50 countries in Africa starving to death. No. When it comes down to it, Krishnamurti is quite right. What do you think? One meal more is going to help you?
oh yes,
No. This idea also of giving. Let us keep giving. Look at what we are into in the wars that we are supervising right now.
you mean like the old Emersonian idea of charity afar is spite at home?
Oh my God, I've never given one dime in charity in my life. I mean, if I'd be embarrassed knowing that it would be the scoundrels getting it in their pocket.
I understand.
My last charity taught me for sure. I got out of a cab. It was before you paid everything by card or whatever you do, I don't know, or Uber. And I got out and I said, look at all these pennies. Wow. And today pennies are, dethroned.
Yes.
All they are is, if you find this penny, you could be worth 5 million.
Right.
Everything is money. It really is just so boring already. Is that all there is? Isn't there a bread that tastes good? So I take it out, and there's the homeless. I used to call them under the word bum.
Yes.
Oh, the bum sitting there,
Yes.
To me, the bum is just someone who has decided, well, there's nothing I really want to do, so I'm not going to work. And so here he is, and I've seen him before, and occasionally I would take out some coins and I would give them to him, but never pennies that I remembered. So I have all these pennies. And so I got out and thinking, of course, I'm so witty. I look at the creature down there. He's a creature sitting there year in and year out. I remember when and where. And I say, do you take pennies? Offering him and he says, no, I don't.
I see.
The beggar in America.
Is in a position to choose, you mean?
Yes,
I see.
yes.
Okay.
Oh, they're wonderful. I mean, they're not going to take pennies. My boy Benjamin Franklin would look at him askance and say, a penny saved is a penny earned, which is a really good thing to say. It's not bad.
Yes, I agree.
Not bad.
Well, we've talked about many types today, and since maybe this has been a day of addressing types that come into one's life, especially if one is in your position.
I love talking about this, don't you?
Absolutely. And
Oh, please join our, tell everyone you know about our what do you call this?
Well, right now, presently, we're on YouTube, and hopefully, we are looking to expand to other platforms. But in the meantime, we do hope you will like and subscribe. This is No Art, No Life.
You know, no art, no life, no food, no life, no. What do you think art is? It is our food.
Correct.
It's a pity. It's a pity when God died. You know, when Nietzsche decided he was dead for all of us.
Well, do you think he was right?
Oh yeah, yeah. He took away. I don't mean he did. It was in the air for 200. When he took away the idea of a God, and I'm not talking about the real God. The real God may live in you at all times. Must have been in Beethoven at all times. How could anyone possibly create something so wondrously perfect? But I mean the religions that were, vying for each other, from Mormonism to Presbyterianism to the Mideastern. Look at what our world's still suffering over. But that's not God.
Mm-hmm.
God is me creating a line that may be beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So art and God are linked to my religious spirit.
Mm-hmm.
They are linked. But I am not someone that recites, nor do I like the idea of calling all of these fundamentalists just people that really are talking about metaphors. Yeah, I don't think they really believed that God created the world in 6 days or 7 days or 9 days. Yes, they did. It's so simple to become a fundamentalist in anything. So simple. Any good mind can, dissuade you of the normalcy or equilibrium. What interests me about the great God himself, as Handel called him in the after composing the Hallelujah chorus, I do believe I saw the great God himself. Well, of course, he had an hallucination of Christ or whatever he believed in, but he did compose the Hallelujah chorus, and it does survive, and it does still have its tingle, doesn't it? But what was I saying? I thought, something
I
interesting.
guess we were talking about the degree of vulnerability to fundamentalism.
Yeah. Anyone that believes that there is a science still, they're not really with it. There's no understanding of the universe. And you know what's so wonderful to me? There never will be. My opinion, if you want to think it was made in 9 days or 2 or 4 hours, you can, but it's not within the realm of science. Now, do I like science? No. As Byron said, oh my goodness, I hope we do not lose mankind to mechanism. Well, we have, of course. We've lost the game. We should be having 20 million people listen to this because I would find it relevant to everyday life. But what do we have? 22 people or something like that?
Well, one's got to start somewhere.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Of course. I do this for the fun of it. And there's a topic that should be really explored.
Yes.
Very few people do anything for fun. Very few people have any fun in their lives. Very few people do anything that they laugh all the time. Oh my God, isn't this fun to do?
Well, I think a big distinction has grown up between things that are genuinely fun and things that only permit one to look away from the abyss. And I think that's what most people do.
Genuine fun is just fabulous. When do we get that? Oh, I couldn't do it by fishing. I don't want to kill a fish.
Okay.
I eat them, but
Yes.
I'm not happy about the idea of catching it or hurting it.
Yes.
When are we going to start understanding that we don't even need meat? I'm addicted to meat. I must eat all. That's what I've been eating since I was, an hour old, I guess, or something. When am I going to start improving myself? When am I going to start playing the Rachmaninoff Prelude better than I do now? Not because it's important, but because it's fun. It's wonderful to do. I play recently I got off the piano. I never played that as well as today. What a fun! I was gleeful. You see.
Mhm. Well, that deserves a conversation unto itself. The
Yeah.
distinction between fun and mere levity.
Tell me now about your thoughts on what Glenn Gould used to when he was a child on Lake Erie or Ontario. He would see people fishing and he would, in his little motorboat or whatever, he'd zoom over and try to just, you know, get their concentration off. He doesn't want to kill,
Mm.
he doesn't want to kill that fish.
Mhm.
You ever look at a fish down at Chinatown? Those fish look up at you. I mean, they remind you of the human face often so many times.
True, but it was Joseph Campbell who said that a vegetarian has never heard a carrot scream. So I don't know that we can ever escape, as a living thing,
We
our
can't,
obligation
we can't.
to thrive off of other living things. I don't know that there's an escape. Perhaps science will.
No, no, no. Science will never do that because it's a very idealistic thought. Science is it likes applied stuff.
Mm.
I don't know of the scientist who works alone
Mm.
on his new plan. He has grants and universities, and he's not going to be happy until he wins the Nobel Prize. He's got to win
Mhm.
from his science. Thank goodness there's no Nobel Prize for painting or music. How did it happen that literature got into this? This man who invented dynamite that killed so many.
Oh. Mm. I don't know, but there are many.
Please, if you're listening in Sweden, please never give a Nobel Prize to a concert pianist. Please don't, or a painter.
Because it would exacerbate some of the things we've already been discussing today.
Sure,
Yes.
and God forbid a great poet doesn't get it while these incredible insanities are now part of the Nobel heritage. It used to have a prestige, even though the inventor of dynamite doesn't, hold very much for me to admire. Dynamite? Please do understand, not one gun should be allowed in the world. No possible gun anywhere. I don't want any hunting. There's the pianist that I interviewed, who you like so much as well, Lowenthal. He said, "Can you imagine Chopin or Liszt with a rifle hunting in the forest? God help us."
I think it was you, however, who also tried to have your reader imagining Chopin or Liszt on a tennis court.
You know what?
On a tennis court, because Hoffman started to undertake tennis.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
think there are many things that perhaps that we just have trouble imagining our heroes
Absolutely. Our
undertaking.
heroes must not be on a tennis court in shorts and in those tennis shoes they now wear, and drinking every minute the designer water.
That seems to be an obligation. And all writers seem to have to gather at Starbucks with their laptops.
God.
That's the only way to write, I am to understand now.
Yeah, well, you know how I don't know anything about these laptops. I don't
Okay.
have one and I don't want one, and yet you don't know how many times it has hindered me because the victory is so complete
Of
over
the machine,
mankind.
yes.
Oh, yes.
Mhm.
We will never go back to anything simple
Well,
except the mating. And what will that mating be like? The machine, the artificial intelligence is basically computerized things, right?
yes.
So-
You mean with the idea of man and machine getting closer to a union?
Yeah.
Well, it seems to me that that will be a great moral decision, not so much on the idea of whether or not one takes on artificial limbs or things of that extent, but it seems to me that what will be the great seductive thing that will be offered will be immortality, and the idea that we may be able to upload our memories, and then someone would say, well, then all that you have endured, all that you have thought will not vanish. However, I do not see how that can occur without a wall falling between oneself and a collective. And then one would suffer what even deity suffers, which is omniscience, which has no point of view, no inspiration to move because of its limitations of knowledge. So it seems to me that when that moment comes, there are going to be a lot of people who have to really pause and say, do I really want what is my private mind to have no ability to resist merging with infinite amounts of information? Because I do not see how personality can be maintained in that
And I think
situation.
you're right, but I think that we have relinquished all of our information already. We don't have the courage to fight it, and we don't have the energy at all. We really have been inundated in 1,000 ways for everything from our telephone numbers to all these things that are known about you, even lies by the many that you can find about yourself.
True, true. We still, as far as I know, unless there's a tremendous conspiracy going on, still have an absolute sanctity, a kind of vault behind our skull. At least in this particular moment, I don't suspect that what I'm thinking is any more public than what I say.
It's going so fast, though, Jack. The time scope is going so fast that everyone can play the minute waltz in 10 seconds, you see?
Yes, but I still think that there will be people who will resist even the chance of immortality to maintain the personality that a mortal lifetime affords.
What kind of immortality do they think is in front of them? Their memory to be replayed? I mean, won't they get bored with themselves?
Well, I imagine that what part of the seduction will be is that there will be mechanical means of perception, of vision, hearing, smell, taste, that will allow one to add to those memories.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, again, the thing that makes me hesitate when I imagine myself being offered that opportunity is wondering, how do I maintain personality if, as we look at the internet now, everything that one puts on there is vulnerable to slipping into the public eye. I think one's always warned that anything one types in an email obviously can be instantly forwarded. So I would imagine that is where the line will come, perhaps, to people wanting to retain personality, is when they're offered an omniscient, immortal state that can be preserved electronically. And what a moment then that will be to defend the human conception when people would say, I would rather have finite time with personality than infinite time with a static, omniscient, just flabby existence. I believe that's coming.
I do too. And I don't know that they will take personality and so forth to stay human.
Well, I think we're coming full circle. We talked about the normalcy. We used the word normalcy for those who may even be very gifted, the Beethovens of the world. And though people may be walking around with the cliche image that he lived this bohemian, messy life, I still think we both know, anyone who spends time with the biography, that he was protecting his time, and there were certain aspects of the man that were very stable. I suspect that people of that caliber will know that they have to keep walls of personality up in order to protect that greater omniscient link with first principles, the ostensible mind of God, which would seem to be the omniscient element that this sneaky computer may eventually offer people, but it will only offer a stasis because there will be no personality. There'll be, again, no wall between one being and another. And that would seem very unfortunate. So I think we all still live in an era of tremendous promise, in the sense that no one knows what another thinks unless they articulate it with real grand utterance. Because no one really notices what anyone else says anywhere today, because everyone speaks in cliches, or everyone thinks they're being revolutionary when they have a belly button ring, or a nose ring, or a tattoo.
What is that? That drives me nuts, to see a tattooed body. What is that?
I think it's the notion that one is being revolutionary while taking the absolute safest option.
Something so simplistic, so outmoded, so long past.
It's the only explanation I can think of. that I would see, as I will when I get on the subway. Here it is, we're in July now, and it's warm out, and I'll see all sorts of young women walking into the subway and on the subway,
Can you believe the
and
way
they'll be covered with, in essence, professions that they can never revise. And these statements are not utterances of personality, but a surrender of personality. So it's a false, the idea is that it's somehow standing aside and being revolutionary. But I think, again, it's premonitory of the notion of surrendering personality to the machine, so that when the time comes and one says, we can upload your memories into this computer, you will have immortality and omniscience, because you will also link with everyone else's ideas. Well, that will be the great moment of the great tattoo. And no one will recognize anyone from a distance or close hand. So to find, in essence, the true naked man, the man who is as he was born, utters only what comes out of himself, that's still an opportunity that we have. So the artist, as we say, no art, no life. No utterance of the private self, no life. I think that's where we still have that chance.
It's a slim chance, I think. I hope it's not. These are thoughts that don't stimulate me, but hurt me deeply. And I hope that we never have to come to that decision. I think it could be very close. I think we could bypass it somehow, but it's not going to be by human initiative. I don't think the humans have it in them any longer to protect themselves. Too many, just too many, 9 billion are just too many people to try to protect themselves from a tremendous machine wickedness.
Unless those who don't have the wherewithal to protect themselves will all surrender to that, and it will leave the normal third and fourth dimensional world that traditional humans are willing to live in for a finite amount of time to those people.
Well, that would be an interesting game, wouldn't it? Could you figure that out?
It's very possible that that may happen, and that could be the benign effect for those who are willing to have a finite lifetime. The fact that they may take the risk of not ever knowing immortality, but they could have a mortal life here that is more traditional if everyone else just jumps into the electronic box. I think that moment's coming, and it'll be fascinating to see who has the guts to resist. And the resistance won't be any kind of militant resistance. It's just the power of looking at someone who's going to say, I can give you immortality, hook up to this machine. It's who's going to have the guts simply to say no thank you, and then go to the diner and sit by themselves and have a cup of tea and savor that steam and savor the look of the plate and the rattle of the dishwasher in the back, not knowing what they've lost perhaps in terms of mixing with all the ideas of humanity, if it can be mixed in some kind of computer omniscience, but they again, and the idea of perhaps living in that forever. But I'd much rather sit for that finite, sad autumn day and not think I'll get to another autumn day, but relish it because it has personality and it has a wall of distinction that is mine alone. So I think we all still have that opportunity, and that's what's coming. I know in one of your books you talk about Chopin, and though, in fact, I think the phrase, if I'm wildly paraphrasing, is that pianos are being pounded and caressed 24 hours a day, likely in his name, on the planet all the time. But even that is vulnerable to the degradation of culture that's happening. But you say that perhaps the people who savor that will be driven underground, and there will still be a contingent of those people. So I think you also have that feeling.
I hope so.
That there will be people who will make that kind of resistance. And there won't be petty resistance of people gathering in Times Square to complain about this or that in terms of the contingencies of today. But I mean the contingencies of absolute personal sovereignty, which can't be governed, and can't even be threatened by a bad government. But it can be threatened by the person who's passive enough to give it away. And that's what happens every day, but from those who don't read, those who accept the notion of pop culture being equal to the canon when it's not, because they have all already surrendered their sovereignty. They're all wearing tattoos of the soul, and you can see them a mile away. And I think that's what we mean when we say no art, no life. That those people really have to beware the tattooed soul.
My goodness, this is how we must stop today with
Okay.
your eloquence.
I don't know.
The tattooed soul.
Well, David, for whatever words that you draw out of me, I do owe it to you for your generosity, that in the sense that here I do feel the notion of a shared look at omniscient ideas, but sovereignty is maintained. So I'm forever grateful to you for that.
I'm grateful to know you, and thank you.
Feel the same.
And I thank you for listening very much to what I hope are really worthwhile discussions with Jack Cole. Wonderful writer, wonderful pianist, wonderful person,
Thank you, David.
and myself. And I thank you for listening.